Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
And welcome, responsible delinquents. That's right. I'm going to stop saying ladies and gentlemen, even though it's just a habit now. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, but also welcome, responsible delinquents. For those of you who also keep up with me on the Instagrams, you guys know I've been posting about being a responsible delinquent lately, and it is kind of stuck. I like the name. I think it's cool. I think it is a representation of these, of the group that we are forming, of the cult that we're forming, of this army that we're forming, this movement of responsible delinquents, because that's what it's all about. It's all about being both, right? It's all about balance. And that is what I want to preach. And so there's a hair on my mic. Responsible delinquents. I'm going to be posting it more and more. And I feel like that's a good indicator of who we are. We are people who like to get into shenanigans. We like to have fun. We like to be somewhat of a delinquent, but also we get our shit done. We're the guy who goes out and parties the night before, wakes up, runs a couple miles, knocks out everything on his to-do list or her list. And that's the epitome of a responsible delinquent. And to carry that into today's topic, we are talking about balancing healthy eating and fun at tailgates and sports events. You guys know I had to rock the Kentucky blue. For those on the video podcast, you can see rocking my University of Kentucky gear being a t-shirt. But it's tailgate season. Today is actually the first day of fall that I'm filming this, so happy fall, everyone. And that means there are going to be more football games, there's going to be more tailgates, there's going to be sports events, all these different things. And even if you don't go to tons of tailgates or sports events, the tips that I give you here can be transferable across other similar events like this, right? So let's go ahead and jump on into things. One of the main reasons why I wanted to create this Minisode was because I know how annoying it can be if you are on a fat loss diet and then you go to these tailgates and things, and then you have to tell everybody, hey, no, I can't eat that, or I'm not gonna eat that, or hey, I'm dieting, or hey, I'm doing that, making up I'm not gonna drink today, right? You have to go through all of that nonsense where people act like you slapped their mother because you're not drinking or doing something that they're doing for some reason, which is just, it still baffles me to this day why people give a shit. That's definitely what we should normalize. We should definitely normalize, like, if someone's like, hey, I'm not drinking, it's just like, that's it. That's where the conversation ends. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to do what I want to do. You do what you want to do. We're both going to be happy. You don't have to do what I'm doing for us both to be happy, or for me to be happy, right? Anyway, yes, we want to avoid people making comments. And so this is going to go along the lines of some of the stealth dieting stuff that I've talked about before, but I think there are new things in here that will be useful to add to your toolbox as you go to these tailgates and things. So one of the first things is going to be controlling what you can control. That's going to be the biggest thing here, right? Because with these tailgates, with these sports events, there is lots of stuff that you can't really control. You can't control what they're selling at the concession stand. You can't control what your parents are bringing to the tailgate, or what your best friend is bringing to the tailgate, or what's going to be there necessarily. So I think that the first principle with this is going to be controlling what you can control and not worrying about the rest. And I think that where this starts is controlling the meals that are surrounding the tailgate, right? So maybe you go to the tailgate and there's a bunch of foods and there's alcohol and things like that you actually want to partake in and that you don't want to think much about. I think that's totally okay, right? We're all adults here. You can do whatever you want. But the meals surrounding the tailgate are something that you can control. And if you do decide to get a little bit loosey-goosey at these tailgates, well, then it probably makes sense to make sure that the meals leading up to the tailgate are, pretty quote unquote tight, right? You're keeping them probably higher protein, lower in calories, higher in fiber, higher in nutrients, right? Lower in fat, because you're going to have all of the opposite of those things at the tailgate. At the tailgate, you're probably going to have higher fatty foods. You're going to have fried foods. You're going to have higher calorie foods, possibly lower protein, lower nutrients. et cetera, et cetera. So to quote unquote like minimize the damage surrounding the tailgate, it makes sense to figure out your meals not only before the tailgate, but then after the tailgate, because that's probably going to be the hardest, is after the tailgate, possibly whenever you've already had some drinks. Your inhibitions are already very low. And so that's something that you just need to just do a little bit of planning beforehand. And it's like, if you decide that, hey, after the tailgate, I'm going to just eat whatever I want, that's totally okay too. You just accept the consequences and then you move on, right? That's part of being an adult and making responsible decisions. But if you want to control those meals afterwards so that you can minimize your damage, I think that is totally okay as well. So do a little bit of pre-planning. Okay, the next is going to be eating before the tailgate. So if you don't want to consume a lot of the foods at the tailgate, it probably makes sense that you need to have a decent sized meal, because you're definitely going to be at the tailgate probably for a few hours. And if you go in the game and et cetera, right, it can be a full day thing. So having a pretty big, let's say the tailgate's at noon, right? Maybe it's a noon game. So you have a pretty big breakfast, actually. And this is if you're deciding not to eat at the game, and maybe you can have a snack or something like that. But for the most part, you're not going to have a big meal. You're not relying on the tailgate to be your main meal for that day. So having a big breakfast in this scenario makes sense. It can be higher calorie. It can be more food in general, so that whenever you go to the tailgate, you're not hungry. You can make better choices. You can just drink a little bit, and then you'll be all set until at least close to whenever the tailgate ends. So eating before, managing your hunger is going to be crucial for that. And so the next thing would be like, if you're eating there, here is what I would recommend. And this is going back to the beginning of controlling what you can control. It's like, it's going to be a tailgate. There's going to be foods there. And I think that the best way to, if you really want to make sure that you're staying on track with things, or at least you have the option to choose whenever you get there between the meals and foods that other people bring compared to what you bring, it's like, it probably makes sense to bring a couple like healthy snacks, or at least like not terribly gluttonous snacks. I'm not saying you have to bring like veggie sticks or chicken and rice in Tupperware. I'm not saying that you have to do that. What I'm saying is that you could bring things. So like low fat popcorn is going to be a good one. You can load it up with salt. People aren't going to make it, it's still going to taste really good, right? So low fat popcorn is going to be a good one. I think beef jerky is another good one. Bringing your own fruit, like bringing a big fruit tray. I feel like that's never a bad move, whether you're trying to eat healthy or not at these tailgates. It's probably a good idea to have some fresh fruit just to make sure that everybody can at least get some type of hydration and nutrients through the foods that they're eating here. So a big platter of mixed fruit would be a good idea. Bringing some protein bars and just having them with you just in case, right? So having them in your purse, or having them just bringing it with you if you have a bag or something like that, or if you just want to set it in the car. Obviously, be careful about it melting. Set it in the car so that you can maybe have it for later. That's one way you can go about it. Chili is going to be another one. If you are making a dish for everybody, it's like chili is going to be a pretty solid tailgate dish. That's also going to be decently healthy. And if you can make your own version of it, of course, you can control all the ingredients and things and still make it delicious for everyone, but also not like super high in fat or calories. So chili is going to be a great choice. Regular just pretzels is going to be a good choice. It's going to be a good enough choice. And I think that, again, that's another principle that overlies all of these choices that you're going to be making at the tailgate and these sports events. It's just like, let's just make a good enough choice and not go completely on either end of the extreme of like super boring and healthy, but also super gluttonous and just eating like a complete asshole, right? That's a good tip for nutrition as a whole. So pretzels, just bringing in a big bag of pretzels, and you can just eat on those. It's basically just eating hard bread. That's all. It's just wheat. That's all those pretzels are. But they're pretty low in calories because they're low in fat. It's basically just carbohydrates. But it can be a high volume food. It's similar to the low fat popcorn, but I would prefer the low fat popcorn because the popcorn is going to have even more food volume. So you can eat more of it for the same amount of calories, but also it's going to have fiber in it, which is also going to be good. And it's going to help with your fullness. And there's probably just slightly more nutrients in the popcorn as opposed to the pretzels. So pretzels, and then the last one here I have, and of course there's so many different things that I could mention here, but baked chips are another one. It's just like bring some baked chips. Some people, you could be that person, like, oh, they bring the baked chips instead of the regular. It's like, just, again, it's insane that people even make comments like that, but it absolutely happens. But you can bring baked chips just in case. I love baked chips. I think they're delicious. So you can munch on those, and that would be one way to go about it. So controlling what you can control, bringing your own snacks, that's going to be super beneficial. Where am I at on time? We're at 10 minutes. We're all good. I have a couple more here. Okay, so eating there, this is not just exclusive to tailgates or sporting events. This is any time whenever you're just like, I don't know what I'm going to eat. I don't know what foods are going to be there. This is what I tell my online clients. This is what I always do myself. It's just like your go-to is always just like asking yourself, what is high protein and where is the fiber? So before you're about to eat, be like, what is my fiber source? What is my protein source? And if you can knock out both of those, you're probably going to be in good shape. So it's just like protein source. This could be, and of course, this might be fried foods. This might be what happens. You might have wings, for example, right? Or chicken tenders or something, right? So, but that's still going to be a protein source that isn't completely terrible. Sure, it's going to be a little bit higher in fat, and I'll get to that in just a second on how to navigate that. But having a protein source, so let's say chicken tenders, and then you also have a fiber source. So let's say you find some fruit, or possibly you could eat the low-fat popcorn, right? So see, it goes hand in hand. But getting some fiber in, getting that protein in, that's going to be a good enough choice. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. All right, next is going to be, and this is what I was alluding to, is you can have some different choices here, and this is just a suggestion. You don't have to do it this way. But one way that I recommend to clients and how to still have fun, but make some trade-offs, is you have the choice between choosing between drinking alcohol, having dessert, or having fried foods. So you can't have all three of them. You can't have two of the three. You have to pick which one. So if you have alcohol, then you try to avoid the fried foods and the dessert, and vice versa, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. But choosing between alcohol, fried foods, or dessert, that's just going to be one way that you can still enjoy yourself. You can still enjoy one of those, but you're going to sacrifice some of the others, and then that choice is going to be up to you. That's just going to be an easy way to kind of keep those promises to yourself, stay on track, and minimize calories without eating completely clean, right? And the next thing would be, which goes in with this and actually aligns well with the protein and fiber, so having the chicken tenders and maybe the fruit. This is my healthy, unhealthy rule, which I've talked about on here. And the healthy, unhealthy rule states that any more nutritious food needs to be screwed it up. All right. The healthy, unhealthy rule is whenever a less nutritious food needs to be paired with a more nutritious food. So if you have a less nutritious food, say a chicken finger or wings or something, some type of fried meat, that's going to be a less nutritious food because there's just not as many vitamins and minerals within that food. So that needs to be paired with a more nutritious food, say like a cup of mixed fruit. Mixed fruit is going to be more nutritious because it has more vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, etc. And you pair those two together, and that is how you can balance those things out, as opposed to having like chicken tenders and fries, right? So it's just like, you got to make some trade-offs, right? Got to make some trade-offs. That's the healthy, unhealthy rule, and that is what I would recommend. And lastly, stick with either low carb or low fat choices whenever you are at the tailgate. So if you decide to have wings and things like that, if you decide to have these really fried foods, well, then you're probably going actually a little bit lower carb. I know there's some breading on the chicken and things, but if you're going lower carb, well, then maybe you could try to minimizing any type of desserts, minimizing some of your starchy sides. So maybe don't get like mashed potatoes or any type of casseroles or anything like that. You want to keep the carbs to a minimum, and vice versa. If you decide to go low in fat, well, then you're primarily going to have mostly some type of leaner meat. So maybe if they have pork or something like that, or some type of tenderloin, something that's not super fatty, and then you can avoid the fat on there. But eliminating one of those macronutrients is just just going to be an easy way to balance out the calories total for the entire event. And then the last two very obvious tactics are to avoid any type of sauces. So any type of like Chipotle sauce or anything that's just going to add a little bit of extra calories or like ranch or something like that you can dip things in. So it's like, have the chicken tenders, sure, but dip it in ketchup or mustard and not in like ranch dressing or Chipotle sauce, right? You don't need to dip your fat in some fat, you know? So that's what I recommend in order to still balance out those calories. So avoiding sauces, and then of course liquid calories is going to be that easy one. And with alcohol, this is obviously going to be tricky. However, the choice is yours. Okay, and that is it for Minisode number 152, balancing healthy eating and fun at tailgates and sports events. If you like the video, if you like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, leave a comment, send me a letter, buy me a house. Yeah, that's it. Seriously, thank you guys, as always, for listening and for watching. See ya.